See, what you don't understand is that the action button for the power button for the camera's in the back of the camera, and my arms are too short, so I can't do it. So she has to reach around and do it. So there's always some kind of little like.
I have to give it the goddamn common courtesy if I reach around.
Like, yeah, but you always you're like, what am I doing? And I'm like, you're turning the camera on.
Mm-hmm. Usually, if we got a CD or a DVD or something, I can be like that with it. But
yeah.
No.
So that's why that happens. It's a little peek at how the sausage is made, really.
Yeah, and we don't have a DVD of this one because it's not out in DVD yet. However, I was sent.
Is there kind of like any? I probably should have asked before we started recording. Is there kind of like any NDA or something? Like, are we under embargo?
No, I asked Steve about that, but I can send him. I'm also going to send him the file to make sure
we don't say anything.
That so he can let us.
We were given a screener copy because we're so important.
Yes, I was sent a digital copy of this for purposes of vlogging, because this was directed by Steve Rudzinski, who did the Meowie films and did Red Christmas and Captain Zed and some other things that I've not done reviews for.
Carousel and Carousel 2.
Carousel, both Carousels. So he's apparently I'm in his collection of people he will send screeners to whenever he's at a new film.
The CHCU, the Carousel Horse Cinematic Universe.
So, I'm happy about that. I like his stuff generally.
We're like, oh, hey, it's that guy. We like him.
We got very excited when he turned up in screen in this. He plays two parts, although theoretically they might be the same guy.
I think they all play the same, because they're all, it's like an anthology. Okay, so here's the thing. So the setup for this is, it's basically like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, there's some...
Or The Midnight Club.
People of indeterminate ages
they
gather, and we'll get to that, gathered around a campfire telling little anthology tales. So you know what this is. So basically, it's very interesting because it's a kind of like a hodgepodge of 80s, 90s, aughts, and more contemporary kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like we'll get to that, but like so. If you know what the setup is, you're like, okay, yeah, right, all right, vignettes, okay, I see what it is.
Yeah, this is based on the Shingles books. Now, whenever I was
Not the disease.
Whenever I was sent the trailer for this ages ago, around the time we did some of the Meowie stuff, I thought I was pretty sure I'd seen the books for sale. I was sure it was a kids' horror series. This is definitely not for kids, and having done some looking up,
There's
recently...
dicks, they say fuck, you know.
Having done some more looking up recently, it's like, I'm pretty sure I must have been confusing it with something else,
well, you told me, and you were like, how'd you put it? You said like a competitor to Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I thought of Robert Chan's Cirque du Freak. And that's just because I'm a bookseller, and I've been, at Barnes & Noble for a long time. So I'm now thinking of every single kitschy, juvie, not teen, juvie horror series. Because there's been a whole bunch of them since, the 2000s.
Yeah, well, this, obviously not read the books, but the tone is closer to a Kevin Strange thing than a Goosebumps thing.
Yeah, we looked up the folks who are I guess they're the producers and the writers and it's their thing. They're authors and dragons. They appear to do a lot of D&D stuff. Their website has a lot of D&D themed shirts.
Yeah, they seem to be...
They have a podcast. They play D&D.
They seem to be the screw attack to Dead Gentleman's Tigwatig, if you're up in your lingo from 20 years ago.
I understand that reference. Nobody cares. Although there's a podcast that I listen to, and your man just occasionally just loves to take the piss out of Doug Walker. I'm like, yes, go on. I'm here for it.
But so I'm still pretty sure I have seen the books for sale somewhere, but
they're print on demand. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but we also went to a horror con before. We've
that's
also
true.
been to
cons. That's true.
The Comic Cons. I think I would have seen them at some point, and it got conflated in my memory with a similar series of books elsewhere. But it's fine. Okay, so you got these four people who are
potentially adults, potentially teenagers.
Yeah, they're all played by people in their mid to late 20s, but they're written as about 10 years younger. And then you got adult characters who are played by people in their early to mid 30s who are acting as though they're 10 years older. It's a bit chronologically confused.
Now here's the thing, because that was one of the things that I was like, with the script, and then my first thought was that a good way to fix that, if they do another one, and there's about a 50 squillion of these books they got out.
Yeah, there's
so
like 55 of them.
Very easily could do a sequel. Would be to just make it very obvious that they could either do it two ways. Make it very obvious that these are adult actors who are dressed like they were dressed like they were in their mid-20s, but dressed like teens, behaving like teens. So you, the viewer, are not sure. Wait a second, are those just adult actors playing teens, or are they actually adults who are acting in the context of the universe like teens, and everyone's just kind of like, all right, we'll go along with this.
One of the actors basically performances pulled that off. The redneck. She had the right pitch of performance for that kind of.
As if she was playing like a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah, that kind of stylization, and her costuming. That was all on point for that idea. The other ones felt more like people in their mid to late 20s doing lines for people who were 10 years younger, and it's a bit.
But like I said, like small things, like making that very clear in the script that. God, Dad, I'm 16, like...
There was a couple of bits like that, like someone saying, we're not 15 and a half anymore, which by implication means that they must probably be 16.
Yeah, or like, I'm 16 1/4, Dad, but yeah, like little things like that. I mean, there was a lot of bits that were really, really good, like a lot of contextual atmospheric stuff, like in the one vignette about like a kid who goes to his older brother's frat house over the summer, and the older brother's friends with this other frat brother, and then it's the guy played by Steve, and he's got a T-shirt of him and the other frat brother as like little chibi guys doing a fist bump with like little love hearts. The second I noticed that, I was like, wait till the wide angle shot. Look! You see? I was like, that was a really great atmospheric contextual thing.
Yeah, the storylines. You got the first one is zombies. The second one is the ventriloquist. Third one's aliens. Fourth one is the cocaine gnome. The fifth one is zombies again. Now, what's really interesting is for the vast majority of the film, it's like the quality of the stuff gets better. Like the zombie story at the start is, I think, the weakest.
I think that's why it's the shortest. I think it was meant to be like, this is obviously like some cracked out, like Counter-Strike players, like, oh, when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm gonna headshot everyone.
Yeah, it's basically an asshole in Xbox Live, who's really excited the zombie apocalypse is happening.
But it makes me wonder if they'd ever seen The Taint, because when he gets suited up to go kill zombies, it reminds me so much of your man. What was his name? Drew Balduke from The Taint.
Although that was also...
We reviewed The Taint a long time ago.
More directly, I think it's probably...
It was a whole nother gender ago.
That was probably a riff on Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I know. But...
rather than The Taint. But yeah, similar sort of suiting up montage. So that one I thought was the weakest. And you got the ventriloquist dummy one, where you've got the guy who did the voice of Carousel. The horse is a ventriloquist who... basically manipulative, sexually exploitative dummy from the 1930s who, he's annoyed at all the wokery in comedy these days and, complains about not being allowed to do...
Doesn't actually say woke, though. He's like, how about the Jews? And he's like, no, you can't, no, don't make fun of anyone.
That is a fantastic satirical idea. You've got the evil dummy trope, but he is just a comedian from the past. You could do a lot with that, and they did it pretty well.
Yeah, I did like the concept of like this guy is just not funny. Like he doesn't know how to pun. He doesn't know what the word innuendo means, and I have literally known people who thought that they were hilarious, mostly because their parents told them that they were. Like, especially we were discussing. I'll not say his name, but we were discussing someone that we used to know through YouTube, who basically thought that comedy was like Rodney Dangerfield and like bits that would have played in the Adirondacks, like, at the part of Dirty Dancing when the camera was following the characters, like yeah, that's what stand-up was in the 1960s, but that's not funny anymore. Like, funny now is, it's a lot different,
Yeah, it's just things move on.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like saying, oh my gosh, how about those airline peanuts? No, Nobody cares about airline peanuts anymore, Jerry Seinfeld. I mean...
Yeah, when you say what's the deal of, the only way to possibly get a joke out of that is by doing a ridiculous Jerry Seinfeld impersonation. And even that is incredibly weak. Having said
here's the
that...
thing, though. That was the point. That was one of the points that I think that was one of the points of the Seinfeld character, is that everyone knew his shtick, and he was predictable in the kinds of things that he would say.
Having said all
That's
that,
my opinion.
I'm editing 2 reviews at the moment, and one of them does have me doing a Jerry Seinfeld. What's the deal with these things? So yeah, even I'm not immune to attempting to get a laugh out of it.
The basic. But not. I don't think you can use the actions. Probably copyright. Just use like a. I'm sure Kevin McLeod has some kind of generic Seinfeld riff on this.
That was a really good satirical idea, and I handled. Yeah. Pretty damn
well. Yeah, because basically, like, he's a numbnut he's like, oh, and so it's a dummy just fucking, taking him apart. So it looks like it's a ventriloquist doing self-depreciating comedy around the bit of the dummy's the smart one and the funny one and the guy's an idiot. And I was like, that's a good idea.
And then, also get, basically, people... terrible things that happen to people that are filmed and go viral. You put that element in there as well, and it's all manipulated. It's a really good idea.
Yeah, he makes him drink laxative, which also makes him puke for some reason. It was probably Ipecac as well. So he basically starts puking and shitting himself on stage, and then it goes viral, and his dad is selling this to I guess major news outlets for a cut. And I was like, that's really good because that's very modern. That was one of the problems I think with this script was that I feel like they wanted to have it both ways. Like, they wanted it to be 80s, 90s kind of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Kind of like that.
You can still do that.
But the thing is, they also had elements of contemporary elements. So I think it should have gone hard as a period piece or hard as a contemporary piece.
Impossible to do a period piece on the budget they've got.
But it's when you write the script, you write for the budget that you have.
That's
so
true.
Making it 100%, contemporary, I think that would have been a lot better. Because they have smartphones. They're using apps. They're using the internet. They're Googling. They're monetizing YouTube stuff. So I think that it should have gone all in, in various different places across the script.
I suppose it would have been more satisfying for them to go all in. I'm fine with them taking bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can see why it would have been more satisfying.
Yeah.
The
like I said when we were reading watching this, I was like listen to me this big asshole. I've never written a screenplay. Obviously they should have done it this way.
One thing they should have done, and if you do a sequel, I really would like to see this. Eric came up with this. During the stories, cut back to the people at the campfire and have the other people in the campfire critique the story, and then this flusters person telling the story, and then they change details in the actual story. This was an approach that was done in the Big Finish Doctor Who and the Pirates, and it was done to amazing dramatic and comedic effect. And it's a sort of thing you can get a lot of legs out of that. You can create a lot of jokes out of that. You can do a lot of interesting things, like in the third story, which is an alien story, which is I think the strongest of the 4. It seems to be a fever dream of someone who is like a 10-year-old's idea of what a college party is like. And you could make, if that's what they were going for, you could make that a lot more clear. Because the people aren't... Because
what I think is, and what I said at the time was, it's very evident that that's how that scene was shot. This is someone who thinks that, we're gonna party, we're gonna... And then, there's no liquid in the shot cups. Yeah. There's no liquid in the solo cups. This is obviously being played for laughs. But maybe it's only because I think about the way that things are done on screen and the way that they're set, just because of living with you for a million years. But I was like, oh yeah, obviously what the director's bringing across is this is a child's or a teenager's idea of what a college party is like, and we know that that's not the case. But that would be reinforced by just these little bits. Oh yeah? What kind of shots were they doing? It's shots? Yeah, shots of what? Alcohol? And then there could be cut back to the party this is some great alcohol as they're doing clearly empty shots.
Yeah, it's that I completely agree. That would reinforce a lot of what seems to be the point, but also it would make get a lot of excellent jokes out of that.
Yeah, And then that same story, the aliens show up, and they're like, American. So it was kind of like a cross between the movie The Coneheads, and what was the one that you
Lost
said?
Skeleton of Cadavra.
Like, we are aliens. But the thing is, it was doing that thing of like, oh yeah, they studied, television, and that's why they know like what Americans say. And that script was kind of good. Like a lot of the lines were just, like, what did she say? Like, we're keeping it melon instead of like mellow.
The aliens also reminded me of like an American version of Urban Gothic's Pineapple Chunks. Instead of being all British middle class, it's American middle class. So you got people who would be suburban, probable assholes, but like taken to a weird nth degree by aliens.
And see, that's the part that I think could have been modernized, because if they'd watched American social media, then you might have
the aliens, not the writer.
The aliens, not yet. Then you'd have like a Karen, as the female one, and then the male one would be like, all right, let's go, Bungo, and like, let's go, Brandon, or like saying like, 5G doesn't melt steel pizzas, because that's how this guy who was like.
It would be funny if they wrote a straight scene involving those characters, like actual realistic depictions of that kind of people, and then somehow put it through like an AI thing, in which then recorded the spat out version to create the alien. We had
ChatGPT write a script.
So that's a good use of AI stuff.
Here's my smarmy think piece about how AI is good, actually.
That's a really good use for AI stuff. When if you need to take something made by human and make it inhuman,
make it sound like aliens came up with it. Yeah, because. Well, we had to pause it because I said, this reminds me of some movie that I saw at a friend's house on VHS in the 80s. And I said, I don't remember anything else about it except some kids met some aliens. And the aliens are speaking English because they intercepted TV signals as they were leaving Earth, which was actually a reoccurring theme in 80s sci-fi.
Yeah.
That the aliens are watching television. And they're not paying for cable.
And, even Transformers the movie had that.
Yeah. But, I remember one of the kids saying, oh my god, I can't believe they speak English. And the other kid says, maybe they're not speaking English. Maybe they're speaking some language that just sounds like English to our ears. And you looked it up and found out what
I figured it. I thought it was Explorers, but then I looked it up and I confirmed it was indeed Explorers. It's been many years since I've seen it, but yes. So you have the ridiculous-looking alien and, River Phoenix, hanging out.
But yeah, so there was that, and then, there's this one character who is the Southern girl, who is obviously a complete and utter, parody stereotype. That doesn't seem to be a word strong enough.
Yeah, with her, it's hard to tell whether they were going for infantilized or if they were taking the piss out of the fact that Southern stereotypes in American media, I've noticed, tend to be scripted as more simplistic than people from the North. I'm not sure, or maybe a mix of the two, but the actor was really bringing it. She was fantastic.
From the Mid-Atlantic, I will not get cancelled. I will not get cancelled. I will not say anything that gets myself cancelled.
The one playing the part, she looked a lot like the one who plays Miss Marvel in the MCU. Just slightly paler.
Oh, I can see it.
Sorry, we're gonna go back to the aliens.
Oh, I read it.
When it comes to the actual aliens, most of them, the performances were going for very minimalistic sort of, whenever they were in proper alien guise, not pretending to be humans. They were going for mostly minimalistic sort of
and that was a really great practical effect.
Oh, the face?
Yeah, the guy was like, you're not aliens, this is some kind of bullshit, you're dressed like bad Super Sentai warriors. And then there's the alien is shot from the back going like this, and they go, ah! And there's a really good practical effect. That was a good practical effect. That looked like actual animatronics going on.
Facial vagina dentata. But the 4 of the aliens are very much doing a spin on Leonard Nimoy as Spock. However, one of them is doing a spin on Terry Gilliam acting in Monty Python films, where he would spend his entire performance looking and doing a silly voice and just doing something weird on screen in the background.
Yeah, there was some kind of put things and stuff, and he's in the background going.
Yeah,
but it was really great because the actor was leaning in, so you could specifically see his facial reaction,
Yeah, what?
That was good.
If you watch any old Monty Python thing, watch out for Terry Gilliam. Whether he's playing, Patsy with the coconuts in Monty Python: The Holy Grail, or whether he's playing the guy with the dreadlocks who gets, cut open or whatever in Meaning of Life. Every part of his, because Terry Gilliam cannot act, so he just does something weird and he hopes
he has his cartoons act for him.
Yeah, he hopes, that's good enough. And, this guy was definitely bringing his weird face, A game, and he was spectacular.
Maybe he was, like, specifically picked for the part, for the, like, the vicissitude of his facial features. Like, he can just...
He also looked like a younger version of a cross between Ashens and Pedro Pascal.
You said that.
I want that guy to get, to star and stuff. He's great. Then the fourth one was the one with the cocaine gnome. Now, this one...
Wasn't there some Australian children's author who died in the past 5 to 10 years who wrote stories that got turned into an anthology Australian show that was big in the UK? Because I remember Yahtzee Crochet and Gabriel talking about it on Let's Drown Out. No, not that's animated. No, it's like little vignettes, and he was saying that one of the books by this guy was like featured like an enchanted garden gnome, and this one kid, if he cried, his tears would turn into garden gnomes, and so his next door neighbor would pluck a nose hair out of his nose to make him cry, and so they had this whole kind of like nose plucking gnome business, and Yahtzee didn't believe that it was real, but it's like this Australian children's author who wrote, this is legit true, I swear to God, Google it. I'm gonna Google it after we're done recording.
Okay.
But that's what I was thinking of the whole time. I bet it's like that Australian kids thing.
This one, you've got a bisexual garden gnome who eats people and shits out cocaine, and this is all about
because of drug smuggling. He's not like synthesizing cocaine within his person.
And he smuggles drugs, and this is basically his adventures with the southern girl who is played by someone in their mid-20s who's I think the character's meant to be 16, but is acted as though she's 10. It's a little bit temporally odd. But the main critique we have for the gnome story, because I thought it was very strong script-wise and sort of all put together.
And I was pleased with myself for pointing this out.
Yeah, you pointed this out. The voice of the gnome being sort of a husky, gruff, adult man voice makes it very similar to the ventriloquist who had that kind of voice. What they really should have gone for was something much more cutesy and sort of fairy tale gnome-like, something much less threatening, and apart from anything else, it makes the juxtaposition of him talking about eating people and cocaine and having sex with all kinds of people and things much funnier.
Yeah, like if it was like, because basically it's this almost the same character as the ventriloquist dummy, so you're like, oh, we saw this already. So if it was like an actual like, I'm a fairy gnome, who like really thought that he was a fairy gnome, like, look, I have stardust that comes out of my special spot. And then, like, he's like, smell the stardust, you'll feel like you can fly. Like, that would be really, really funny. Because, like, it's doing these murders, it's, like, sexually assaulting people, it's made of cocaine, it's trying to get this poor abused child, adult, to sell cocaine. And so that makes it even funnier because she has the childlike demeanor. It has the childlike demeanor, and it's not something that we just saw a story and a half ago.
Yeah, I did love in the gnome story, you've got this fantastic gimmick restaurant. I would be shocked if this doesn't exist somewhere, but it was amazing. It was a hot dog place that was gay themed. So you had like club music. You had the server was this German guy with a mustache who was shirtless, but he had like clasps and what do you call it? Over his,
it's a harness.
Harness, yes.
It's a leather harness.
He had a harness, and that is a fantastic gimmick for an actual restaurant. I really hope someone's done it. Just do it as gay as hell. And
Paul Jennings is the Australian author, and it's from Quirky Tales.
Okay. That Paul Jennings who did run the twist.
Well, that must be because I know that like some of his stuff got turned into a TV show. This is live as it's happening. It's 23 minutes. We have to keep an eye on how long the file goes because our camera cuts
off at like 30 seconds. But yeah, that is a fantastic gimmick. I don't know who came up with that. Make it real. Because
there's lots of like, I don't want to say like gimmick, but yeah, like gimmick hot dog places. Like there's one in Philadelphia. I forget what it's called, but it's like the socialist like theme. There's one in Belfast. It's not socialist, but it's like kind of like, oh, crazy dogs, and then you can have kimchi and what the fuck else. And like, yeah. So like it was so well acted and it was so funny that it kind of wasn't even homophobic. Like, I feel like that actor was specifically picked, like, can you put on a leather harness? And for some reason, like, his gayness was 1980s gayness. Like, he had, like, the perfect mustache and everything, and we're like, this isn't even homophobic. This is great.
This guy, we could definitely see him being...
Also, his teeth were huge.
You could definitely see this guy being a minor part in, like, Cruising, but, like, one of the less offensive parts of, Cruising, William Friedkin's Cruising. With his giant teeth and that mustache, you could do a really
Freddie Mercury kind
you could cast this guy as a very low budget Freddie Mercury, and I would totally buy it.
Right.
He was great.
But I was like, is this offensive? No, I don't think so. I think it's actually like, I feel like there's a lot of gay businessmen who are like, you know what, like, okay, maybe not in this political climate, but like a few years ago, but like, you know what? Gay hot dog place. Everyone's like, oh, that's great. It's a great idea.
Where the buns are half the size of the wiener, so that you have to.
And the funny thing is, I was at Sainsbury's on Thursday, and they had this American section. No, it wasn't. It was like Pop-Tarts and like 3 other things. But they had these American hot dogs. And over here, you get hot dogs in jars of brine, which is the most unappetizing thing ever. And I looked on the package, like on the jar. These were made in the Netherlands and Germany, and they're American. But the jar was huge, and it was £5, or £5 sterling. But they were really, like, large hot dogs. And I want to do them on our little, like, pretend grill thing. And so I was like, we have to go back to Sainsbury's so I can pay £5 sterling for a huge jar of oversized pork hot dogs. Gaily.
The fifth story was basically a sequel to the first one, because the first one was about this Xbox asshole. Xbox Live.
Shut up, Mom and Dad! I've been waiting for this forever. You're not my real parents. But here's a picture of us giving birth to you. Shut up! You're not my real parents.
And they, the parents get killed. Ironically, he's called Jimmy Headshot, but never actually kills anything with a gun.
That's why it's funny.
I think that's irritating.
Because he'd be like that kind of like, yeah, I could snipe him for like no. Anyone that I've ever known who's excited by the idea of a zombie apocalypse or social decline is just one of those people that thinks, you know what? I've played a survival horror game for an entire weekend. I'll probably do okay. No, we're all gonna die. Are you crazy? I'd be one of the first ones that gets chucked off the island, because we are on an island. We're like, what can you do? I'm like, can you farm? I'm a psychologist. Oh, so you can counsel. No, I never had any clinical training. Right on the boat, off with you. Well, unless you can plant potatoes.
You can do backbreaking labor.
I can do that. Yeah, but like, all the people who think, oh, this is great, I'm gonna grab as many weapons as I can and hoard shit. No, you're not. Unless you've been trained for that, you're gonna die, asshole. You're probably gonna die of an infection. That's what most people are gonna die of. Like, if we're talking about, like, a full-on social decline, where do you think you're gonna get, I was about to say paracetamol, penicillin?
That's what we'll do. We'll just get some bread and we'll let it go moldy and then we'll rub it all over the
Here's the thing. You don't know what color penicillin is. What are you going to do? Just lick the whole bread and hope for the best?
Yep.
Everyone's going to die of hangnails. I'm just saying. Anyway, Shingles.
So his family get killed then in his story, but then at the end he continues the story, and the zombies attack the 4 of them, and he tells the story of everyone else's death, and he
good practical effects again.
He goes into the sex shop and suits up using sex shop stuff, where you get some wonderful porn titles featuring other in jokes from the film.
That was pretty good.
And then they kill more zombies, and it turns out that didn't actually happen. But the zombie stuff is, I think, the weakest, and it's because the other bits didn't rely quite so much on the technology, on tech and things like that, and action and things like that, while the other ones could get away with more simple stuff. Well, the zombies use a lot more techie stuff, except for very brief bits.
Yeah, and that probably takes a long time to film as well.
Yeah, and
coordinating a crowd shot.
But that is
quickly eat his entrance. No, you missed your cue. Put the liver back. We have to do it again. I'm imagining it.
That's just part of the film's issues. Primarily are down to the fact that it had a microscopic budget, slightly higher than the Meowie films, but it's not a big budget. So
I looked it up. I think it's still open on Indiegogo, so I think you can still kick into it. We went to their website. You can pre-order it on DVD or Blu-ray.
Yeah. The budget is very small, and so most of the issues are to do with that. The other issues I would say, I think we agree on this, that it's a little bit long.
Oh, I thought you were going to reach and reveal something from behind us. I was like, oh,
no, I'm just putting my arms behind my back. Oh, I look dodgy. I look like a gorilla.
What are you talking about?
The other issue is it's a bit long. It could have done with some tightening up.
Yeah. Some of the scenes went on, like some of the gags went on. They had the oral knots problem that I think, if you have a gag, oh, that's good. Like that's what you want. You don't want people to be roaring because that kind of humor is very hard to sustain. I think.
Yeah.
Like if you were like, all right, that's like there were a few times I was looking at Twitter. I was like, oh my god.
It probably would have benefited from another pass at the script as well. Your idea about cutting back during the stories to the people at the campfire, critiquing it and then making adjustments, that would have been spectacular to add. But, if it's a success, there might be a sequel. I'd love to see them integrate that.
Or even do, like, again, something that I saw in The Gamers. Even within the scene, just have, put, maybe a bit of an echo effect on the people. But wait a minute. How could you possibly be doing that? It was nighttime. And then all of a sudden, you switch to a day shot. So like I was,
Yeah.
So I think that, if the script had gone through a lot of editing and just pared it down to what was absolutely necessary, this group is apparently a group of comedians, so I can see that there was probably a lot of pitching that went on, and a lot of bits of people were like, oh, we have to keep this bit in, it's really good. But I feel like some bits could have just been a setup and a line, or maybe a setup and a contextual kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things you become, as a writer, you get sort of in love with your own material.
Yeah. Here's a good example. So, earlier on in the week, we were watching, was it the Utter and Incomplete History of England?
Of Britain.
Okay, so this was something that Michael Palin and Terry Jones did pre-Python, so 1969, because we looked this up.
Yeah.
And it's in black and white, and only a few sketches.
There's 6 episodes.
You explain it, because I don't really.
There were 6 episodes made. 2 episodes survived the great culling of the BBC stuff in the 70s. And so eventually they put out the two episodes as exists on a DVD, but they also got Michael Palin and Terry Jones to do linking material for what they consider the best sketches and make it into a single 50-minute episode. So it's new and old stuff, and that's what we watched.
Right. And so there was a bit where they, I forget who it was like King so-and-so and the Archbishop of Canterbury or something like that, and they're sitting on a bench in front of these, and obviously in a cathedral. It goes, but later on that year, they fell out. And then both of them lean and fall back out of the window.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, that is the stupidest, but it is 100% a silly visual gag, but it's just executed so cleanly and so, that's great. It's what, 50, over
60 years old.
60 years old, and we're like, that's so funny. And that's all. I feel like that's all you need.
Almost 65, almost 55 years old.
Yeah, some stuff is all you need.
Yeah, just in case you're wondering, that is basically an old school horrible histories. So they're going from Stone Age to then modern 1960s Britain, just in time, just chronologically, roughly doing comedy sketches based on it. But obviously, only the first 2 episodes survive, so they get to 12th or 13th century, something like that. Yeah.
But so that's what we think. So if you're keen to go out and support all of these folks, support Steve because he's a great director. Support Authors and Dragons. You can pre-order on their website.
Yeah, you can only.
Please don't sue us. We were assured we were allowed to talk about this.
The Authors and Dragons. You go to their website. That's the only place. As I understand it, that's the only place you can get Shingles. If you want Steve's other stuff, you go to Silver Spotlight. I believe it's silverspotlight.com. If I remember, I will put them in the description of the YouTube. If I don't remember, someone leave a comment telling me to remember, and I will.
Also, these folks are having their own convention out in Portland in August. So if you're local to the Portland area, I guess you can go say hi.
And you like comedic podcasts?
Yeah, I think it's a D&D 5th edition podcast is what they do. That's what their Twitter seemed to indicate. So
yeah. Yeah, they seem to do pretty much similar kind of things as The Dead Gentleman, and we love The Dead Gentleman.
Fun fact, the Gamers on DVD was the first purchase I made on the internet ever with my credit card. I was actually I was kind of worried. I was like, I don't know, I typed my credit card numbers and allegedly someone's going to send me something. I don't know if it's going to work out. But it did. Oh no, look, there are zombies. They're right over coming through the door. We better end because the zombies are coming, so they are. So we better end so we hoped it was all you dreamed of and more.
Yeah, Shingles.
Happy Shingles, everyone.
Shingles was a lot of fun. See you later.